911 location of your emergency.
Something is happening. Something happened in our house. We don't know what.
What is the address of the emergency?
1122.
And tell me exactly what's going on.
One of the roommates has passed out, and she was drunk last night and she's not waking up.
Okay.
Oh, and they saw some man in their house last night.
The Idaho student murders case is back in the spotlight as Idaho State Police are releasing nearly 600 pages of documents from their investigation into killer Bryan Kohberger. There were reports of alleged stalking of Kaylee Gonsalves, plus reports that a witness overheard someone saying during the murders, quote, "It's okay, Kaylee, I'm here for you." Investigators interviewed a friend of the female victims, a woman who used to live in the same King Road house, said, quote, she heard Gonsalves was walking her dog once and had seen somebody hiding behind a garbage dumpster. Gonsalves felt that somebody had been watching her, and this was about a month prior to those homicides. Another friend told investigators that before the murders, Gonsalves had claimed to have seen a shadowy figure watching her from the vegetated area behind the residence, which understandably freaked her out. Gonsalves also had told the roommates about a stalker in Moscow, Idaho. Well, this gives me chills. So was Kaylee Gonsalves Kohberger's intended target? Let's talk about that. Let's bring back in criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor Noah Pines in the studio, and welcome in Court TV digital producer Lauren Silver, who's been poring over all of these released documents for us. Noah, let me begin with you. Your reaction to Kaylee possibly being the intended target, does that make sense to you?
Well, you know, we who have been talking about the case have kind of been doing in a vacuum in that we haven't had all the discovery because that doesn't come out before a trial happens for obvious reasons. And now that the case is over, you know, all those public records are out there and people are going to start looking in to really see what was going on. So this gives a little bit of an insight, you know, potentially as to why he was there and who was the intended victim. It's an insight that you didn't have before. You knew some of the facts, but you really didn't have all the details, you know, and now that this information is coming out, and I expect more, obviously, 600 pages isn't a lot for a case like this. I'm sure there's more somewhere. You're going to learn more about really what the evidence was. Yes, I appreciate that context, Noah. Maybe not in terms of evidence, but in terms of reading. Oh, yes, it's a lot. And Lauren, you did it. You poured through every single page on every single document that was made public. Give us your biggest takeaways of what you learned, if you would, please, Lauren.
For me, it was probably the red flags. There were a lot of red flags when it comes to Bryan Kohberger, his behavior, his actions, the way he spoke, the way he interacted with other people. And his attorneys had made a filing that implied he had an autism diagnosis, but this went far beyond anything like that. They described him as constantly argumentative in class. He would stare people down and try and use his physical position to exert power or dominance over other people. He would be late to classes taught by women, but not to men. He was misogynistic, homophobic. He constantly argued in class, wanted to focus on serial killers, and really only wanted to discuss the offenders themselves and not any victimology. But despite his incessant need to talk and argue in class, whenever the murders were brought up, which I'm sure they were a lot because he was studying criminology, he would not participate in those discussions in class. And there were some people noticing that he had hand injuries in early November around the time of the murder, including cuts to his finger and bloody knuckles. He told people that that was from boxing.
Boxing,
yes.
huh? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's also an interesting interview that was done with one of his professors at Washington State. Now, these names are redacted. I do not know which professor this was. But this professor said in a faculty meeting before Christmas break, the entire conversation was focused on Bryan Kohberger because he was so problematic. The professor warned, quote, "We will hear he is harassing, stalking, and sexually abusing his students," but said that he's smart enough that in 4 years, we're going to have to give him a PhD. So they ultimately decided to cut his funding and remove him from the TA program, which is a step that had never been taken before at Washington State because of behavior.
Wow, this is really illuminating, Lauren. As you said, so many red flags that this guy makes people uncomfortable. It seems like he has problems with women, lots of complaints from students, teachers saying, oh gosh, if he gets a PhD, he's probably going to be a problem as a professor, maybe harassing students. Legally, Noah, when we think, okay, this guy was a weirdo and nobody liked him and just a kind of a nuisance in the classroom, but what can legally be done with somebody like this?
Well, legally, he might not have violated law. However, he might have violated a school code of conduct, which is very broad. Most of these codes of conduct are very broad. They prevent people from harassing or intimidating other students. You know, I've seen that enforced. There's obviously Title IX. If there's sexual harassment, there could be a Title IX action where you know, the school brings an action to kick him out of school, but somebody typically has to complain to make that happen. And I think what happens these days is that people are afraid to complain because they're afraid of, you know, maybe the backlash that could come against them. But I bet you if you went back and looked at everything that was looked at, he violated code of conduct.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, Noah, definitely. Some more examples of that. So some women told Washington State University about feeling uncomfortable around him. Looking, we cited specific pages here, faculty receiving complaints about him, being described as creepy. He made some classmates cry even. Sexist, disrespectful, picked fights. People reported him not being empathetic. Told a female student that was both disabled and gay that he would need his partner to be physically perfect and a disability would not be acceptable. Oh my gosh. A divorced woman claims Kohberger said that he did not date broken women after initially pursuing her. Boy, this guy, a real gem of a person, sounds like he is. Lauren Silver, tell me what else jumped out to you in terms of his interests, hobbies, anything else that you think might surprise people to know about this guy?
So there were a couple of interviews with people that knew him behind bars. One was an inmate who lived with him. The other, it's not clear if it was an inmate or some sort of corrections officer. Again, the names are redacted. But they said that he goes through 3 standard-sized bars of soap each week because of hours-long showers and excessive hand washing. His hands are red as a result. He did enjoy watching information about his case. Apparently, immediately after being arrested, he came and saw his coverage and he said, wow, I'm on every channel. And he did continue watching coverage of his case and enjoyed it. But when we started to discuss his family or friends, he would turn off the TV. He did not like that. But he does enjoy court TV. The inmate who lived with him said that he is a fan of court TV and he specifically enjoyed our Murdaugh coverage. So,
my.
Glad we have a courtie.
My. Right. Yeah, apparently Kohberger's a courtie, but we're not claiming him as a courtie. Lauren, I wondered what specifically he said, because I got a call last night about that, and I'm going, what? So apparently he's a court TV fan, and the Murdaugh coverage specifically interested him.
Yeah, and I mean, as a criminology student, sort of a weird choice.
Right.
Not a very well-planned crime there either, but...
Right. This is true. Gosh. Noah, tell me your thoughts on that. Do you think that there was a fascination with crime that got him interested in committing crime, or do you think maybe the interest was always there with a guy like, you've seen a lot of criminals in your career and in the courtroom? What do you think? Do you think, like, which came first, the chicken or the egg, essentially?
While you were talking about him watching Murdaugh, I'm like, who's a bigger sociopath? And that's literally what I was just thinking. And they're just different sociopaths. I mean, they're not they are narcissistic, but they're really both sociopaths. Obviously obsessive hand washing would be OCD. You don't know if the mental issues, OCD and those other things spurred what he ended up doing, or if everybody thinks he's a creep, then that can obviously then spur, well, I'm going to show them who I really am and exert control. So the more you treat him as a pariah, the more he probably acts, as a pariah.
Acts like one, right. Boy, this has been a fascinating deep dive. We'll keep going. Anything more we learn about this, because I think, of course, the big overarching question hasn't yet been answered. The why. The why would someone do this, especially somebody
I don't know
in
you're ever going to get that answer.
the world of academia, right, Noah? I don't think so. A great talk. Noah Pines, thank you so much. Lauren Silver, thank you for all the hard work. You look gorgeous. Get some rest after all that reading last night. I'm sure you were up late. We'll see you soon.